everyone. Welcome to Fridays with Father. Father Gary here on a special version of Fridays on Holy Thursday morning. We wanted to deliver this at the beginning of Triduum, just to give you an overall sense of these great days that lie ahead for us, and to really encourage you to enter into them as deeply as you possibly can. I know with families and schedules and the times of these liturgies that you may not be able to participate fully as you would like to, but I want to introduce you to these liturgies and encourage you to participate as much as you can. So Lent concludes at sundown tonight, Thursday, Holy Thursday, as we begin the great 3 days, the Triduum, a word that simply means 3 days. And those 3 days are the three holiest days of our liturgical year, in which we enter into the great mystery of the depths of God's love for us as shown to us in Jesus, as he enters into his passion, his death, and his resurrection. So tonight we have the Mass of the Lord's Supper, which begins at 7 p.m. A reminder for those of you who are coming to bring your rice bowls. This is a wonderful tradition here, and I'll say more about that in a moment. This liturgy begins with the procession of the holy oils that were blessed last Thursday by Archbishop Aitchen at the Chrism Mass at St. James Cathedral in Seattle. And so those three oils, the oil of the sick, the oil of catechumens, and the sacred chrism, will be presented as we begin, just before we begin Mass tonight. And then we enter into this great celebration in which we remember both the institution of the Eucharist and traditionally known as also the institution of the priesthood. Both of those things tied together in this wonderful act of service that we hear in the Gospel. We'll hear in the first two readings about the roots of our Eucharist, the roots of the Last Supper, and then we will hear in the Gospel from John a beautiful, beautiful passage around Jesus washing the feet of his disciples as an expression really of what is at the heart of Eucharist and at the heart of any service in the church, and especially in the priesthood. So we will read that gospel tonight, and then we will ritualize it after the homily, where I will wash the feet of some of our fellow parishioners as a sign of what we're all called to do in serving each other. Then we will celebrate Eucharist, the heart of our faith, the font really from which everything flows in our faith, and the summit of our celebration when we meet Jesus in the Eucharist. And then a very special occasion tonight and every Holy Thursday, the preparation of the gifts, as I mentioned. The rubric for Holy Thursday is different than it is for other times of preparation of the gifts, in which we take up a collection. In the Roman Missal, it says we take up a collection for the church and for the poor. But on Holy Thursday, it's very specific that this collection is for the poor. And so that's why it's become our tradition that we bring our rice bowls, the fruit of our Lenten penance, with us. So a special collection of those rice bowls, and then any monetary donation that you would like to make that will go to CRS's rice bowl. And then we'll enter, as I said, into the Eucharistic celebration, followed by, we don't end Mass tonight, and that's a very significant part of what we're doing over these next 3 days. We actually, the church sees this as one long liturgy in 3 parts. And so as we conclude the first part tonight, we conclude it not with a final blessing. That won't happen actually until the Easter Vigil. But we conclude tonight with a procession of the Blessed Sacrament over to Marian Hall, where the Blessed Sacrament will be in repose there, so that we can pray as a community and until midnight in Marian Hall. So that will conclude the first night of the Sacred Triduum, but actually the whole first day goes through Friday until we reach our celebration of the Lord's Passion, which begins at 7 p.m. on Friday. Before that, we will have Stations of the Cross in the church at 3 p.m., so invite you to come to that if your schedule allows. And then at 7 p.m. we'll gather for a celebration of the Lord's Passion. We will gather the English-speaking community. Will gather in Marian Hall this year. Last year, Spanish-speaking community gathered there for the Liturgy of the Word. This year, the English-speaking community will gather there. Spanish-speaking community will gather in the church for the Liturgy of the Word. And in that Liturgy of the Word, we'll hear the Passion of Jesus according to St. John. If you remember last Sunday, Palm Sunday, we heard the Passion according to St. Matthew. And every Good Friday, we hear the Passion according to St. John, which if you really pay attention and if you want to prepare yourselves well, take some time and read through the Passion according to Matthew that we read last week, and then read through the Passion according to St. John that we'll read tomorrow night on Good Friday. And you'll see there's very many differences in the way that the evangelist presents Jesus' crucifixion, and that's very intentional. And the church preserved both of those depictions of Jesus' passion and crucifixion. And it did that on purpose, because it's all of that together that gives us a sense of the whole mystery of Jesus' death and resurrection. So on Friday, Good Friday, we'll read from that Passion. Then we'll come together as one community in the church, so the English-speaking community after the Liturgy of the Word and the long intercessions will rejoin the Spanish-speaking community in the church for the adoration of the cross and for Holy Communion. And so Good Friday will end again without a blessing, with simply a prayer for all of us as we go through this second day of the Sacred Triduum. And then that second day lasts all the way up until we begin the Easter Vigil, which begins at 8:30 this year. I should say, too, that on Good Friday, we're going to start a new tradition here at St. Joe's, and we will have a fire out in front of Marian Hall, small fire that we're going to encourage people to come and to pray as Peter prayed and as Peter struggled with his faith on that Good Friday. And we'll hear that. We heard it last Sunday. We'll hear it again in the Liturgy of the Word this Friday night in the reading of the Passion. And so this Peter's fire will remind us of our own call to follow the Lord Jesus, even when it's difficult and even when we fail. And so we have people that will tend that fire from Friday night all the way till Saturday night, when we begin the great Mother of all feasts, the Easter Vigil. That vigil begins at 8:30, and we will begin out at that fire, and we'll bless that fire, and then we will process into the church with a new blessed Easter candle. So that begins day 3 of the Sacred Triduum, as we enter into a long liturgy of the Word that really explores all of salvation history for us. Before that, the candle enters the church, a darkened church. We will hear the great exultet, the great praise of that candle symbolizing the risen Christ among us. We'll use that candle after the homily to consecrate that water in which our brothers and sisters will be baptized at the Easter Vigil, and then we'll will enter into those sacraments of initiation, of baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist for a number of our fellow parishioners. And then we'll celebrate the great Easter Eucharist, and in which these, the elect, the catechumens, candidates for full communion, Catholics who were baptized as Catholics but never raised in the faith, and so will be confirmed, and they'll all receive their first communion, and then we'll all receive communion together as well. So we will enter into that celebration with hearts really full for these people that we have accompanied all through their preparation process. And then we will conclude that liturgy, but that's only the vigil. And so our day 3 of the Triduum continues the next day at 9 a.m. with our Easter morning Mass in English, 11:30 a.m. Our Easter morning Mass in Spanish, and then a 5 p.m. Mass in which we read a special gospel at that 5 p.m. Mass, the story of Jesus encountering those 2 disciples on the road to Emmaus. And so at the conclusion of that liturgy really is the conclusion of day 3 of the Triduum. So that's just a brief overview of this amazing 3 days that we enter into. Of course, that third day, this is at the heart of our faith. This is why we come together to celebrate on Easter. It's why it is the high point of the whole liturgical year. And it's what we repeat every single Sunday when we gather around the table of the Eucharist to celebrate that life conquers death, that God's grace conquers any sin and darkness in the world. And that's the celebration of the resurrection. So these 3 days that lie ahead, as I said at the beginning, I hope you enter into these as well as you can. I mean, ideally, you would come and celebrate all 3 of those liturgies and join us for Stations of the Cross on Friday. That's demanding for people as busy as you are, and I know that. So do the best you can. If you can celebrate with us all 3 of those days, wonderful. If there are only some of those days, do the best you can. And please know that you will be in my prayers as we enter into these great 3 days. And ask your prayers for me and for our whole team, that we might enter deeply into these celebrations so that all of us together may experience that new life that the Lord Jesus wants to give us. Well, that's it for this special version of Fridays with Father on Holy Thursday morning. God bless everyone. I really look forward to seeing you this weekend.